Let's go. What is going on, YouTube world, the internet, everywhere in between? This is Lauren with the TMF podcast, and it's been a while since I've done a live broadcast with just about anybody. The last one I did is going to be with a guest we have on tonight as well. But we got moved. We're in the new studio. We have a new setup going on here, and it's been an undertaking to say the least. Getting the entire house, people, family, workspace, everything moved has been a giant undertaking, and I cannot thank my dad enough for helping me with that. Jacob helped a little bit. We're just going to give Jacob about 5% credit for his part in the move. It's mostly me and my dad, being honest. But so things have dude, it's been a ride. It's been an interesting ride the last couple weeks of my life, which is why I have not been streaming. I haven't been making as much content because everything was an absolute shit show. And if you follow any of the channel or any of the social medias, you have seen some of the last guests that I had on here. One of them is going to join us again tonight. We're going to make this a recurring event. His name is Jeff Kerins, and I met him through one of the podcast links on Facebook. And we had a long discussion about men's mental health, and I've talked to him about a lot of things going on in my life. And he's actually made a pretty positive impact just in the way that I've looked at things in my own life, and then dealt with certain situations that I've had come up. And we've kept in touch since doing the podcast. He is Canadian. Please hold that against him to the fullest extent of the law. It is okay. We're okay with that. And he's a hockey fan, so a lot of people aren't even going to understand where he's coming from. Let's be honest. In the US,
a Leaf fan, so they'll know my suffering.
We don't have a whole lot of hockey fans down here, except my dad. My dad plays hockey. He's like 70 years old, still plays ice hockey in the good old state of Georgia, where we're at. But we're going to kick this show off. He has a presentation. He wants to talk to you guys about some stuff. And if you want to join the show, all you have to do is comment over here. I will look at the chat, and we can get you in here. If you have some things that you want to talk about in your life, or want maybe some advice or some motivation or some direction, or just someone to unload some bullshit on, you can absolutely join the show and do that. You do not have to have a video like this and see my beautiful face. You can be just audio only. So if you're interested in that, by all means, type it in the chat. But we're going to kick this off. Jeff has a little presentation he wants to go over with you guys, and then we're going to see where this show takes us. We don't have all night tonight, but we do have some time, so feel free to jump on in. All right, Jeff, I'm going to switch it over to your screen.
Recording in progress.
What's going on, Lauren? Thank you very much, sir. That's quite the intro. So yeah, so as Lauren said, we met. He kind of listened to what I got to say, how I learned it in life. And just kind of in a nutshell, years ago, I was like this close to making it. You know what I'm saying? I went all in and I lost everything, including my mental health. And it was just, life got worse until my dad died. And then finally, everything I was learning and researching, it just kind of all put together. Now, I'm still learning. So it's, but I find I'm a lot more ahead of the curve than everybody else right now. And in the last couple of years, everybody's mental health just took a beating. So I figure Lauren and I are going to team up. You might as well get to know me a little bit and more how I perceive life and feelings and emotions. So tonight we're just going to stick with one part, and it's just emotional awareness. So here we go. This is my presentation that I haven't done in a couple of years. So please bear with me a little bit. But again, my name is Jeffrey Kerins, and everything I teach about healing, mind, body, spirit, it comes from 90% of life experience. That other 10% is in my 40s. I went back to school and I got my diploma in addictions work and social services, graduated with honors, no big deal. But yet Here we are. So let's get started. So there are many roads to healing. Not one shoe fits all. Like with me, I teach A.S.L.E.F.T, 6 words to heal it all. But again, there's other people who have found peace in meditation, like I have. Then there's other people who go for CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, or DBT, dialectical behavior therapy. Or people have discovered Wim Hof and they started taking ice baths and doing rapid tumo breathing, and they have found peace and love. But there's other people like Dr. Joe Dispenza, who I've been researching for it, like just in the last 4 or 5 months. And I believe the guy is actually like a second coming of Jesus. Not what he's preaching, but for what he's teaching. Jesus healed people. Dispenza's teaching people how to heal themselves. And he breaks it down on a very scientific level. I'm still learning, so I'm not going to really quote him too much. And then also dieting. When we start eliminating carbs and sugar and drugs and alcohol from our system, we start to feel better. We start to heal. So we're just going to focus tonight on emotional awareness, because sometimes all a person needs to heal it all is that one missing piece. And especially being dudes or guys, we get taught to think and how to be tough, but our emotions, we get taught not to share them whatsoever. So that's something kind of like taboo. Like we could talk about anal sex with each other and everything else, not with each other, but we can have very taboo conversations. But one thing we will never really get too close on is our emotions. So what I've learned, I can solve by myself. And what I'm going to teach you is just open up your awareness, your consciousness to your emotions, and realize that all the answers are inside of you: your pain, your suffering, your love, and your joy. Yes. So emotional awareness, A.S.L.E.F.T. It's not a political thing. It's a healing thing. All right. 6 words. Now, when I read tons of books, go to seminars, watch videos, when it comes to healing, I saw a common theme, and I really based it down to 6 words, 4 if you're savvy. But to break it down, it's acceptance, surrender, love, empathy, forgiveness, and tolerance. Now, when you start talking about healing and people are just absorbing it, it can be drinking like a fire hose, but good thing Lauren is recording. So you can always play it back if you get a little confused. Now, most people in life that are struggling, I talk to them and I listen to them and I start to give them advice, or being like, have you looked at it like this? And usually I get this common reply is, you know what, I'll be happy when I get a new job. I'll be happy when they apologize, or I'll be happy when I win the lottery. That's when I'll be happy, which we're really just making a deal with ourselves saying, I've got to be miserable now until something happens externally, which again is a lie. So a little bit about me back in the day in good old T-Dot. This is me at my first communion. I was born and raised Catholic. I really didn't get a vote. So kind of went along to go along, bit in my 30s. I had this crazy spiritual experience, and let's just put it this way, I didn't really need the church. So this is a picture of me just before I got meningitis. On my 2nd birthday, the doctor told my family I was not supposed to survive the night, but yet here I am. I was always a bit of a handball and always a little bit of a porky kid, but cute, chubby cheeks. Yeah. The tough tween years. Can't believe I'm sharing this. So yeah, this is good old me with the mullet in grade 7, had the hockey hair. This is me when I was 12, discovered heavy metal, Iron Maiden, Metallica. Yeah, it's always good for an adjusting period. This is me in grade 8, all miserable, and me in grade 9. Now, this soul right here walked through the doors of his high school, 5 foot nothing and 210 pounds. Woo, it was a bit much. Yes, but then I lost all the weight. And what happens to people who were bullied? They usually become the bully. And I am no different. I lost all my weight, started working out. Girls actually started talking to me, and I handled it good, but I didn't handle it good, if you know what I mean. So just look at this dude right here. Like that's a prison photo if you're just ever waiting for one. Now, sorry, warning. So the picture on the left here is the last picture me ever taken before one night, went to a bar. This guy started chirping at me. I was chirping at him, walked away, and he just decided to smash a pint glass in my face. Took off my lip, took off my nose, 7 hours of reconstructive surgery, over 216 stitches in my face. And I was probably 2 years fresh off my parents getting divorced. So if you just want to absorb that for a second. Was I angry? Absolutely. Moving along, 2 years later, decided to get myself a baby mama. I'd like to say I'm just kidding, but I'm not. So my problems, became a father when I was 22, but let's be honest, my problem started when I was 21. But yeah, this is my boy. It's my boy Dylan. Babies having babies. So divorce, my face being reconstructed back together, and now I'm a father. So you can just imagine what was going through my head, because I couldn't. So I started working to pay the bills. I started working at a shipping receiving place. Then I started getting really bored with that. Then I went and got a job at a restaurant, failed a few times, got fired a few times, and then started to learn it, and then just mastered it, started winning a lot of sales competitions. So I took all that success, made up a resume, and I started applying for corporate sales. Got my first job selling software for salons and spas, got to travel all over North America. It's a pretty great gig. And then, so in my 30s, I built up all the courage to go in on a project. I actually had a few projects going, like with potentials of like millions, like total recognition and total cash. And within 2 weeks, fell flat on my face, came back to Toronto with no place to live, sleeping on a couch in Scarborough. And that reward gave me, depression, anxiety, PTSD, suicidal thoughts. It just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And that's like, I went down to about 120 pounds. I would just realize, reflecting back now, I was just numb all the time, nightmares and just numb, and just smoking butts, drinking coffee, just literally surviving, trying to figure out what was going on. And again, life just kept getting worse and getting worse, getting worse. Couldn't get my company back going. Friends were just dismissing me. I was dismissing them. Couldn't hold down a relationship because I was literally haunted. Couldn't focus. But then with all the books I was learning and reading and everything else from Dr. David Hawkins, Dr. Wayne Dyer, Eckhart Tolle, those are kind of like the big three leading up to when my dad died. And then it just kind of all made sense. And when I started learning about my emotions, I started getting energy back for things like exercise. So I do have a story about how I actually started exercising again, but it's not the point. Now I'm going to lay a little disclaimer here, because really, I thought I had my depression and my anxiety whooped, but then I'm, 5 steps forward, 7 steps back. When I'm in Canada, we just got out of lockdown 2 weeks ago, but everyone's still twinged and wearing masks and everything else. Like it's a psychological fuck going on here. But I wasn't really dealing with depression and anxiety, but I had to unpack fear, segregation, isolation, loneliness. Like it just gave me a whole new bag that I actually had to unpack, but I did. And bitterness was a big one. So, and again, using the same modality that I teach people with A.S.L.E.F.T, that's what got me through and back into that kind of loving, peaceful vibe again. Now, whenever I talk about emotions, I get this a lot. So it's like, people give me this look and they're just like, you don't know me. You don't know my story. You don't know what I've been through. And you know what? You're absolutely right. I don't know. But every story is different, but the emotions that they can produce is not. Anger is anger. Yes, there's different varying degrees. Grief is grief. Sadness is sadness. Guilt is guilt. Shame is shame. Rage is rage. But again, different varying degrees. So really, it's only our stories that are different and unique, not the feelings and emotions they create. So when you start looking at your life on an emotional level and stop critically thinking the story, you start getting a lot more answers. Now, so again, here's the story of divorce and co-parenting. And that situation generated, not limited to, but generated feelings of anger, fear, spite, regret, guilt, shame. You know what I'm saying? I'm angry at my ex. I'm fearful. What's going to happen now? I'm spiteful, maybe because I'm going to be paying a lot of money not to barely see my kids. Oh, I shouldn't have done this. I shouldn't have done that. Or we guilt the other parent whenever they mess up. And so you can see different stories, but they're creating a same emotion that we can all say. Loss of a job, guilt, shame, anger, fear, regret, etc. So again, different story can feel the same emotions. Injury or disease, guilty, shameful, anger, fearful, regretful, etc. Death of a loved one, sadness, anger, fear, guilt, shame, despair, regret. Like when my father suddenly passed away, friends and people would be like, oh, you must be sad that he's gone. I'm like, oh my God, I wish I was just sad. I'm sad that he's gone. I'm regretful that he's gone. I'm angry that he's gone. I'm shameful that we never made peace on some things now that he's gone. There's a whole bunch of emotions. One event just created so many emotions that I couldn't deal with. But again, now somebody else could have lost a pet and that they had for 25 years. And that loss feels the exact same as losing a loved one, a family member. So you can dismiss the story, but the emotions are the emotions. Again, with abuse, anger, fear, spite, regret, guilt, shame, and that violated. It's anybody who's been through that, when you feel violated, you feel powerless, it's something very hard to recover from, because if we don't recover from it, it really just turns into fucking rage later on. Huge amounts of fear and huge amounts of hate and rage. So again, here's the story: graduation, achieving goals, marriage, birth of a child, job loss, divorce, disease, death, childhood abuse. That's all different stories. And what we do for the emotions that they created, you know, some people who have a lot of guilt and shame, they turn to alcohol, drugs, suicide, food, sex, or some just hit that dark night of the soul and they're like, I'm going to do anything to change. And all this nasty feelings, they start meditating, they start exercising, they start expressing it through artistry. So again, what we do with our emotions is different. How we cause these emotions are different, but yet this is the common denominator. So yeah, it's the way that we feel is what really connects us, the way we feel. So I've seen this in rehabs, helping people, that you'll see people with different drugs of choice. One was an alcoholic, the other one was into meth, the other one was into cocaine, but it produced, when they're telling their stories, that created so much, say, anger or guilt or shame. You see them bond together really more on the emotion than the story. So like me, when I became a father when I was 22, birth of a child, yes, I had a lot of love. Yes, I had a lot of joy, but I also had a lot of anger because I didn't want to be a father at 22. I had a lot of fear, being like, what am I going to do now? A lot of guilt, a lot of shame, because, you know, you're not there all the time. So, and I won't lie, with having all these negative feelings, sometimes I went down this way, sometimes I went down this way, but I eventually led more to positive than negative. So what is emotional trauma? That one, you know, you got your mic on there, brother. Did you look in the freezer? This is what we need to know. Well, we need to know that they're in the freezer. I'm so glad he didn't mute himself. Are we good?
Yeah, we're good.
All right, good stuff. Make sure you find the freezer. So what is emotional trauma? Because that word gets used way too lightly. Like the celebs or the hosts at the Oscars saying that they had trauma witnessing a slap. And they're like, I'm traumatized. So one event can create so many intense emotions and our mind doesn't know how to process them. So one event, like my father dying, a lot of anger, a lot of fear, a lot of guilt, a lot of shame, a lot of regret, very intense, that my mind created up, that my body is now feeling pretty much on repeat. and my mind doesn't know where to begin to process them, so it just detaches. And when we detach, it's really weird. We need either high stimulus, like everything's got to feel good, like a party, or it's got to feel really bad for us to kind of remember it, because we're just walking around just constantly numb. Now, is emotional awareness different from mental awareness? It's literally two sides of the same coin, but you're just going to look more on a feeling level than you are a thinking level, because this is your thinking. This is your whole mind, your subconscious, and that's in charge 95% of the time. So I was going to do something with that, but I didn't. So mental awareness, we got thinking, emotional awareness, feeling. There we go. So mental awareness, cognitive thinking. So a lot of people, when they are hurt, they'll do a lot of thinking. Well, I'll get a new job. I'm going to get new friends. I'm going to move. All critical thinking, running away from the feelings that are in there. But when it gets a little too much and it starts to become part of our behavioral patterns, people take cognitive behavioral therapy. Thinking, they're trying to change the thinking to change the feelings, when you can do it actually opposite. Let the feelings out, change the stories that created them. See, what I realized, trying to think your way out of emotional pain is like a salmon trying to swim upstream. You can do it, but the chances of success are slim. And when you're done, you're exhausted. So what creates our emotions? Well, our mind creates them, and whatever we put or not put into our bodies, fill it with a lot of sugar and caffeine, that's going to create a lot of emotions of fear and anger on the crash. So, but I like the emotions are a chemical response to our thoughts. As Dispenza says, our feelings and emotions are just chemical records of our past that are in our body, and they're just now hardwired in there because we didn't do anything about them. So understanding emotional awareness is understanding that our emotions are creating the way we think and the way we act 95% of the time. Now, our thoughts created our feelings, our core beliefs. The stronger the belief is, the stronger the feeling that's wrapped into it. We can have beliefs that we're like him and her, we don't care, we can go either way, because we don't have really any feelings behind them. Yes, we already covered this. Thank you, Jeff. Now, I drew this picture because this really just summed up me. It was just like I had no energy and I didn't know what was going on at the time. But my mind, feeling level, was into breakups, failures, my mistakes, my childhood years unhealed, teenage years that was unhealed, death of loved ones. And all of this was creating a whole bunch of depression, why I couldn't get out of bed, why I just really couldn't find the will for anything. Now, again, when I thought about the future, because I kept saying, give it time, that my future, because the mind takes the past, projects it onto the future. So if you have a shit past, your mind's going to think it's going to be a shit future. So worrying about bills, work, personal dreams, drama, kids, my looks, they were fading fast. They still are. Health and death. So the mind takes our past, projects it onto the future, meaning if our past was shit, perfect. All right. Thank you for bearing with me. So emotional awareness, understanding that the cortex is mostly in service to the limbic system. So over 95% of the time, our thinking mind is asking the limbic, how are you feeling? Well, I'm feeling like shit. Okay, then I'll have shitty thoughts. It's really that simple. So why do we need to learn emotional awareness? Like society, schools, they teach us how to think. They don't teach us how to feel. Like crying, just crying is taboo, let alone having a negative personality. So if someone's getting too emotional, medicate them. That's pretty much the solution for our society. And I'm speaking just in tongue in cheek because we got to move these things along. But here's something that if you Google this is true. It's been like this for the last few years. Every 40 seconds, somebody somewhere has successfully, not attempted, but successfully committed suicide. Why? It's because of the way they feel. Never change the feelings. Now, I've noticed with a lot of people that they've been carrying pain for so long and it's embedded them, hardwired them. They just say, well, that's the way I am, all defensively. That's just the way I am. It's normal for me to act like this. Well, normal's just a cycle in a washer machine. because you're not looking inward and you're looking outward, reinforcing the belief, you just think everything's normal, like everything's shit, and that's normal because you haven't felt good or gotten some good news or felt good in a long ass time. So you're like, this is normal. Repeated enough, it becomes normal, but it's just recorded behavioral patterns. So what happens when we're carrying negative emotions for too long? They manifest into disorders like depression, anxiety, PTSD, addictions, and suicide. And what do all these disorders have in common? Like, to check off that you have emotional pain, like emotional trauma. There's been shit that was unhealed in their life that is now manifesting these disorders. Remove the emotional pain, you really can't be diagnosed with any of these. So we're literally carrying around toxic emotions day in and day out in our body. Now, what do people usually tell us when we've been through emotional trauma? Just give it time. Just give it time. Time heals all wounds, but in the meantime, be strong, carry it. And honestly, this is the way, like, kind of like almost everyone's taught, but really dudes, like, don't show your shit. Just give it time. Give it time, man. Just rub some dirt in it, have a drink, have a smoke. Just give it fucking time. And it really is the worst advice ever, because the experiences we went through, all of them, of the unhealed pain attached to it, gets moved from our conscious mind into our subconscious mind, meaning our body. And that affects our perception and reality. Because whenever I talk about A.S.L.E.F.T. and it's positive, they're like, that's nice, Jeff, but that's your reality. That's not my reality. I'm like, fair enough. But what is your reality made of? It's made of your perception. How are your perceptions made? From your attitudes and beliefs. How did we get our attitudes and beliefs? We got them from past experiences. So if you've had a whole bunch of negative experiences from abuse, being let down, yada, 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 never forgave it or accepted, that's all in the body being triggered. So, of course, the more darkness you have in you, the more darker reality you're going to see. And vice versa. The more positive you've got, more love you have, the more love you'll see in this life. Pretty much just explain that. So how are we coping with all of our, well, it's funny. No one will say emotional pain unless they want to be a victim. But the ones who are trying to be tough, they just say stress. I got a lot of stress. You know, like, okay, so you got a lot of anger, you got a lot of fear, you got a lot of regret, shame, anger. Like, you know, how are we going to unpack this instead of just calling it stress? But how do we deal with our stress? Most drugs, alcohol, sex, gambling, and social media, or getting into other people's business, just distracting because you just hate sitting with you. So here's a little bit of a crash course in emotional awareness. And we're going to end it just kind of right at the bottom there. You see red. So we're going to figure out what is an emotion, how are emotions created, what do we do with our emotions, how do our emotions affect our thinking and mental health, and what do emotions do to our body, and how do we heal our emotions or feelings naturally? No drugs, no therapy, no medication, naturally. We do it through awareness, becoming aware what creates them and how do we get rid of them. So what is an emotion? Well, one definition, a natural instinctive state of mind deriving from one's circumstances, mood, or relationships with others. Yep, that's one. Then another one is emotion is a mental state associated with nervous system brought on by chemical changes variously associated with thoughts, feelings, behavioral responses, and a degree of pleasure or displeasure. Okay, it's a little complicated. So, but the truth is there is no formative, this is what creates them always, and this is whatever. So there's no consensus, but meaning that our emotions are just a theory, just like our reality. But what does Jeff think they are? What do I think they are? They're different levels of energy, chemical. So chemicals give off a vibration, like anger gives off a vibe, fear gives off a vibe, sadness gives off a vibe, guilt, shame, and it's all created by the mind and stored in the different parts of our body, always ready to be reacted on. So how are emotions created? Our mind and body. Negative thoughts have to be felt in the body, or say if you load up on sugar, carbs, alcohol, I'm sure you know, that can all create emotions of, say, fear, guilt, regret, sadness, whatever, then reinforced by the mind. I can go way more in depth to this, but let me just keep moving on. Now, our core beliefs, so how we're going to love and how we're going to fear in this life, is developed by the ages of 6 and 7. How we're going to love and how we're going to fear is developed by the time we can put up our shoelaces, tie up our shoelaces. Now, here's another one too, is that our ego psyche is developed by the age of 2. Geez, terrible 2s in our ego psyche being developed. Any connection? I don't see one. So what about me, the ego, me, myself, and I? So instead of being part of everything, I'm now getting individualized. So the ego creates, the 2 main emotions that the ego creates is anger and fear. Now, our conscious mind, like that little dot I showed you back, is 5%. So critical thinking, logical thinking, and short-term memory. Now, our subconscious mind, it's our core beliefs, our emotions, our self-images, our habit, core values, our long-term memory, our imagination, our first argument or fight is in there, our first time failing is in there, first time getting in trouble, first time being let down, first time feeling violated, first time we had a heartbreak. That's all in there in our subconscious, in the dark room, meaning the only way our subconscious talks to us is through feeling. So it doesn't tell us the story until we feel the feeling first, but nobody really wants to feel that shit feeling. Camera right. There we go. So what happens when we go through an event? We keep thinking about it, we keep thinking about it, we keep thinking about it. Then one day something happens. We get distracted, where we wake up and we're not thinking about it as much, because now all that stress, all that pain has been moved into the subconscious, so we can move on with life. Now, but there's a price to the subconscious. So the subconscious pretty much says to you, we'll take all your pain and suffering so you can move on. But if you are reminded in any way of these painful events, you will feel pain through the 5 senses, or AKA you get triggered, or AKA I feel offended. Being offended is just it's pretty much the mind telling you through the body that you have subconscious pain that needs to be healed. But no, it's fucking Barbara's fault for what she posted online, and that's why I feel the way I do. Yes. So, price of the subconscious. The more emotional pain we carry in the subconscious, the easier it is to feel offended and triggered. I love this one. So, how do our negative emotions affect our thinking, our mental health? Well, the more negative pain we carry, the more like bad events, or even thinking about the events, the more hardwired our brains become. So we witnessed the event, new neurons fire up in the brain, and it was horrible. It was terrible. I can't believe it happened, but we keep replaying it in the brain. So all we're doing is just firing a whole bunch of neurons and then wiring them together. Yeah, I wish I knew this back in the day. So with neurons, once they're formed and everything else, electricity takes the least amount of the path of least resistance. So it's now easy to be fearful. It's now easy to be angry. It's now easy to think of angry things, sad things, grieful things. I think you get the point, because now we're hardwired for it. And I do have a solution for that, but we need to keep going. So as Dr. Joe Dispenza says, it's the thinking and feeling loop anger. So thoughts influence feelings, feelings influence thoughts. And once it's in there, it just, unless we become conscious of it, it just plays around, plays around, plays around. And we're so stressed out, just really listening to our body as thoughts. Now we need to have a drink, or now we need to have some sex. Now we need to do whatever to distract the way I feel, because I hate the way I feel. Now, our mind uses the same voice, but it comes from different psyches. We have 3 psyches, and I'm sure the CIA could create a few more in you, but we have 3 main psyches. And again, this is just a theory, but I'm giving awareness to draw a roadmap. So we have the ego, we have the smaller self, which they call the smaller I, and we have the higher self, which is more compassion. So there's some people online that believe they don't have a voice in their head. And I'm like, if you don't have a voice in your head, you must be really annoying when it comes to reading fucking silently. You must be in the library just being like, once upon a time. Yeah. So everyone's got a voice in their head, but most people don't want to acknowledge it for some reason. So now I did actually have other slides to go down the psyches, but here we are. So what is a human being's natural state? Our natural state, and most people who are struggling will have so much trouble believing this, but our natural state in homeostasis is just peace, love, gratitude, and joy. Because when the mind's not solving problems, creating problems and everything else, and you're just kind of in the moment, that's what you feel. But for a lot of us, especially the older we got a lot of unpacking to do in order to get back to this state naturally, which again, I teach. Now, so just back as a kid, the first day we were born, it was one of the worst days ever. We were like cooking and developing for 9 months. And then all of a sudden, one day we get cut from our food source and we get pushed into a brand new environment and get slapped on our ass for the troubles. Very traumatic, very. And yet we forgave it within seconds because we're just going back. It's over. I'm not going to dwell on it. Here we are. Baby's natural state is just peace, love, and joy. No ego. They can take a dump in their diaper and be like, give me a hug. I could fart in a room and need to leave immediately. So now with love, it's not an emotion. It's just our natural state of being. It's our benchmark, because when the heart is incoherent with the mind, we get health, we get, the law of attraction said this is a good thing, which I believe. But look at it the opposite way. When we're angry mind, angry heart, it's just kind of like a state of being, because our heart doesn't want to hate. Our heart doesn't want to hold on to a grudge, as I've learned. I'm not going to cut people open to prove it, but I believe in the theory. And again, it's just when in this type of vibration, when the heart's matching the brain, good things happen, solutions happen, life-changing, almost miracles happen for people, because when these two are in sync, anger, ego, sadness, grief, just discoherence. So where do we store our emotions? Our body, of course. all the memories and everything else, they're all stored in different parts. Any healer worth their weight can always tell there's an emotional ailment that's causing a physical ailment. Not all the time, but we feel guilt in our shoulders, or we can feel it in our lower back. Our money problems, that fear of lack, goes into our lower back. Sadness, we carry in our knees. But yet, when we heal these feelings, the body heals most of the time. And I've seen it, I've witnessed it, and experienced it. So this woman, this beautiful soul, Dr. Candace Pert, she was the professor of physiology and biophysics at Georgetown University. She's the author of Molecules of Emotions, the Mind-Body Medicine. She is the woman in the 70s that discovered the opioid receptor. And when she discovered that, she was like, well, if we have a lock and key, why do we need something externally? And this woman has done over 200 tests or reports or thesis. And the concurrent was that the chemicals that are running our body and our brain are the same chemicals that are involved in emotion. And Dr. Joe Dispenza proves that as well. But I got to give its due. So our body, like say mind, body, body, mind. Think of it as one, not mind and body, not body and mind. Just think of it as one. And that's pretty much, if you look at her research, this is what she's proven. So our subconscious mind, all our memories are in our body, healed or unhealed. Yeah, good or bad, our feelings and emotions are all stored in the body, and they affect our health and reality. So people who've been through trauma and abuse, they have a dark reality. They have a dark perception. They have a dark sense of humor. They can see the humor in darkness because they've been through it themselves. And that's like a coping mechanism. I'm like that myself. So now, again, when we're in constant fight or flight because of our subconscious past, it just puts our body into dis-ease. Our blood pressure is always going, the tension's always going. it's not our homeostasis, because no one ever taught us how to process our emotions or how to let them go, besides saying, just let it go. So yeah, our unhealed subconscious emotions taking control of our thoughts and leaving us feeling drained. Now our thoughts, we have 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day, all using up energy and all creating energy. So if that uses up energy, but if that thought's negative or worrisome, anything that's not love, for gratitude or forgiveness or compassion or empathy, literally is just destroying us and just robbing us of our energy. And of course, we don't know what to do about it. So when we think about the future, we get absolutely anxious about it. Now, all you got to do a little Google search, the impact of emotions on our body. Emotions like stress, which again is a whole bunch that they're just thrown in, calling it one word. Anxiety and anger can lead to cardiovascular, gastrointestinal illnesses. At the same time, positive emotions like gratitude, joy have an impact on the body. It improves your immunity and reduces the level of the stress hormone, cortisol. Now, emotions and physical health. So this is what I've seen, and most people who've been through trauma can tell you the exact same thing. They're always in chronic pain, chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, irritable bowel syndrome, either all of them or even just some of them, all emotional based, subconscious. So what do most of us do with our emotions? Well, we suppress them or repress them, compartmentalize them, which pretty much frontline workers are taught to do. We can express them, which usually artists or abusers do, or we project them, which mostly people online do. So emotional suppression. We witness the experience, our subconscious reacts with past feelings, so that uncomfortableness, our conscious mind resists to react with the thoughts, and then pushing the emotional pain back into our body. Example, you're in a meeting, there's Debbie, she can't shut up. She's dragging on the meeting 25 more minutes than supposed to. And you're like, nope, can't stab Debbie. Nope, can't say this. Nope, can't say that. Because all these feelings are like, I want to fucking do something that's pretty much negative, that's drawing it up. It's not love. And it's causing these thoughts. But we're like, nope, nope, nope. And we literally suppress the emotion back down until we wait till the meeting's over. Now, repressed emotions. Now, anybody who has friends that drink or do drugs, but let's stick to drinking. There's somebody who just drinks so much to a point that they just turn into somebody else, and that somebody else is not invited to the party. It's like dark. You can like see the darkness, you can feel the darkness off them. That's because our repressed emotions, when they come to the surface, like we're not even conscious of them, but when they get triggered or activated, we just literally turn into somebody else when it comes out. And then you just find yourself, when you calm down, either in jail or apologizing to people profusely. Now, compartmentalize emotions. So this is what cops, ambulance, frontline workers, man, this is what they have to do. Anybody who's working pretty much frontline, you have to compartmentalize. So work, it's an open door. You can share how you feel. Personal, it's open door. And public, this is what I'm willing to show people. You know, I'm polite, I'm this and that. But, you know, we have this closed off room with the shit we don't talk about, and, you know, the stuff people witness but never process, and they just try and sweep it under the rug. Most of us do it because we're taught to do this, but it gets a little much, especially for frontline workers like cops, man. They see the worst of the worst. Their industry is kind of like my industry. My phone doesn't ring unless somebody's having a bad day. It is what it is. Emotional expression, the unhealthy ways, violence or abuse. And this can go either way, but I'm just taking the norm. With, you notice with kids, and especially in the last 20 years, they don't fight because there's a zero violence tolerance at school. If you do, you're expelled. But you find them self-harming, cutting themselves. And since we're going to be really honest here, this is actually a picture of my son back in high school many, many years ago. Like, there's nothing quite like it on the planet when your kid that you love so much lifts their shirt and you see that, because they don't know how to heal their anger and you don't know how to solve it for them either. I do now. So healthy ways of expression, emotional expression, put it into art, put it into music. If anyone knows 9 Inch Nails' Pretty Little Hate Machine, I think that thing went platinum. And it's a whole album dedicated to how much he hates his girlfriend. So that's healthy. So what do most of us do with our emotions, good or bad? But we're looking at the bad, we project them. So if somebody's like projecting their anger, so if somebody's like, your biggest problem is you're always fucking angry, that's pretty much they're telling you their biggest problem. So they'll project it on, say, fear, guilt, shame, rage. The list goes on and on. But also too, if you're filled with love, you're going to project love. You're going to see love. You're going to feel it. You're going to call it out in the little bits you see in people because you're feeling it. You're projecting what you feel. And again, we can't give away something we don't have. If I want to give away anger and I'm not angry, I can't give it away. I can't project it. I can't act it. Just like love. I could say I love you, or somebody could say I love you, but if they're just angry most of the time and they're just kind of like saying that to want to keep you there, they can't, if they're not feeling it, they can't project it. They can't give it to you. So this is why I do what I do, is to help people get rid of the nasty emotions they don't want so they can project something more positive. So what is the goal? So it's going to teach you how to identify and heal your feelings and emotions with A.S.L.E.F.T. And again, not political, healing. All right. I don't even vote. So there you go. It's not political. So, and also I thought about this before everything became polarized. So acceptance, surrender, love, empathy, forgiveness, and tolerance. You master and become aware of these 6 words and how they deal with your emotions, how to identify and get rid of, you heal. All right, Lauren. So that's good for tonight. Yeah.
Buddy, that was a long presentation.
That was a lot. Buddy, that's only part 1 of 5.
You're gonna have to bring in some strippers. I don't know. I think that is honestly the best solution to really capture the audience. We need strippers.
So the next time we present, I will go through A.S.L.E.F.T. I will give the solutions for everybody, because like it's a one shoe fits all solution. There is no emotional pain or trauma that A.S.L.E.F.T. cannot solve. That some people either heavily medicated or they don't have the money to go to therapy. And it's really when you got all the tools inside you, that's what A.S.L.E.F.T. is for.
Okay. Well, let's I'm going to do something here. Let me hit this button, and I'm going to this button here. And let's take a little bit of time to let's take a little bit of time to just dive into let's do like a macro lesson here. How about that? How about something macro? What would you say is something that, because I feel like my audience is going to be a lot of people like me, single dads or just parents in general. And I do see a lot of content on TikTok, social media, of men talking about the internal struggle they have. When you ask them like, how are you doing? And we just say we're fine. Those people are probably not fine, right? Inside, we're just screaming our freaking lungs out because there's so much pressure of life. That is a audience that I think doesn't get any attention in the least bit. Like, we just look at them, most men just bury it, like you say in your presentation. We just rub some dirt in it, whatever. You don't feel it. I don't even know that that's even so much as a stigma of that's how they're raised. I think it's just what we do, right? Because we feel like we don't have time to deal with it. We don't know how to deal with it, or whatever it is. You don't want someone to see you in that light. So on the outside, everything is fine. On the inside, everything is tornadoes, hurricanes, and death and destruction. I feel like that's a lot to do with it. And where's the starting point? What do you do?
You want to starting? So, okay. For what you just told me, now, if I understand this correctly, you're a single parent, you're stressed out, you don't want to share. So that's why you give the fine. You don't want to go unpacking it because you think it might break you, but you're emotionally fatigued and you're emotionally exhausted. Is this a good scenario?
How about this? I'll paint this picture. Or let's just say you have a dad in a household with a wife, kid, maybe 2 kids, right? And the feeling that I think he has, and maybe the feeling that I had looking back, is that we're underneath the family, right? We're right here holding everything up all day long, just like this, right? Just I don't know how I'm going to do this. And then you get home and your fear is that they go, well, how was your day? How are you doing? And you go, the day was rough. I don't know how we're going to make the bills. I don't know how we're going to do this. And that you let go of this and that the entire everything else falls apart. And I will add to that that for some people, that is probably a very accurate end all. That the
Okay.
spouse, the significant other is not cannot help support what's happening. The man holds up everything. They are completely reliant on. Maybe they don't have a job. Maybe they barely make money. And it goes.
I get you.
Yeah, you
I
get
get
me.
you. You don't know how you're holding it up, and you don't know how you're going to hold it up tomorrow. But yet you feel like if I talk about it, it's all going to fall down like dominoes, and there's no picking up the pieces.
Right.
Okay. So having gone through this in my life, and I came up with this meditation probably about 3 months ago, because it's like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I don't know how I'm going to do that. I need to do this. I need to do that. But a lot of it was, I don't know. I don't know how, like even me who teaches A.S.L.E.F.T in like lockdown when it was getting its worst and everyone's so segregated and I could feel the bitterness. It's like, I don't know how to heal this. Now, I don't know how I'm going to pay my bills. I don't know where my next meal's coming from. I don't know what I'm going to do if my kid does this. I don't know what I'm going to do if my wife or partner says this. Okay, perfect. So when it comes down to the end of your night, or just say you can't take anymore and you're just exhausted, go be by yourself, whether it's in the car, the bedroom, the bathroom, do whatever. Take a couple of breaths and allow yourself to repeat it again, what you're worried about. I don't know how I'm going to do this, and I don't know how I'm going to do that, and I don't know how I'm going to do this. And start saying, so at the end of it being like, I don't know how I'm going to handle tomorrow. And it's okay. It's okay. No matter what happens tomorrow, I'm going to be okay. And your mind's going to give you another one. I don't know. And the fear is going to build. The anger is going to build. The resentment's going to build. I don't know. And I don't know. And I don't know. I don't have the answers. And it's okay. In that moment, your feelings that you've been repressing, all like you're not really trying to hold it up out there. You're trying to hold it up in here. Because if I sprayed some oxytocin up your nose and you just felt love and compassion all day, trust me, you're not going to be wondering how you're going to get it done. You're just going to know you're getting it done. So what you're going to do is you take that moment and just play it in your head. I call it the I don't know meditation. I don't know, and it's okay. Your mind will give you another prompt. I don't know, and it's okay. I don't know, and it's okay. And in this time, you're going to feel the feelings come up, the fears, everything, and you're going to surrender, which is going to turn into tears. But all tears are is physical proof that your emotions exist and you're getting them out of your body. Because scientifically, what happens after we release tears? Endorphins get released. So all the shit we've been holding in, trying to hold up out there, but really it's in here when we surrender to it, because we're allowing the mind to have its problem and we're saying, I don't know, and it's okay. So before it's like, I don't know, skip to another thing. I don't know, skip to another thing. And just the tension builds and the tension builds and the tension builds. But now just lay there, say, I don't know, and it's okay. What you're doing in that moment is you're accepting. Psychological acceptance is saying to yourself, it's okay, I'm okay, it's going to be okay. When your mind of acceptance matches your body, your heart with acceptance, you actually get a feeling of willingness, of excitement. That's how you know you've got coherence. But in the meantime, if you're going to think greater than you feel, you start allowing yourself to say, I don't know, and it's going to be okay. And you're tired, you're exhausted. So you're going to want to get the tears out. And that's a start. Anybody who asks, you say, where, like, they'll tell me some horrible story and they're like, can you give me advice right now that I can do it? Like, the elevator pitch. And yeah, accept where you're at right now, whether it be health-wise, mental health-wise, relationship status, financial status. Accept where you're at. Start telling yourself, it's okay, I'm okay, it's going to be okay. We're broke. I don't know where my next meal's coming from. It's okay, I'm okay, it's going to be okay. And this is how you think greater than you feel. But this is also too, when we start changing up our mind and not listening and telling it what to think, then the feelings come up. And that's important time to surrender. So accept where you're at, surrender to the feelings, find yourself a quiet spot, get the tears out, you'll recalibrate, and you'll notice you have motivation to go do it again.
Okay. I think people need to understand wholeheartedly that life is a mental game. Every single day, life is a mental game. It's not about the physical, because the physical is something that you can just get up and go move stuff and feel better. But if your brain will not allow you to get up and go do it, it will not be done. Every single thing you do is a mental chess game with yourself. And it's not even with other people. Too many people put outside influence weighs in a ton on them. And some of the more successful people that I follow or listen to or put content out there, the one common denominator is they don't give a flying fuck about what other people think of them in the least bit. They simply do not. You don't like me? Cool. 8 billion people on the planet. Surprised that one of you doesn't like me. Oh, 100 don't like me. Even better. That's 100 motherfuckers I don't have to deal with every day. They do not care. They have won the mental game. And the mental game is every day. It's like you say, you sit down there and you feel defeated mentally. Okay, what do I need to do? And for me, I've done a lot of what you talk about. I mean, Megan, she said, I didn't like to see you. And I just get up one day and I have a lot on my mind and I have a lot of stress and stuff. And I just went and sat in the shower. I just sat down in the shower, just let the water fall, and I just thought about it. And it's like for me, it's a very vulnerable moment, like to be there. And she's like, I just didn't like to see that. That's okay. I didn't do it for you to see. I didn't do it because I thought, oh, if you see this, you'll think differently. I did it for myself. And when I get out of the shower, I'll be okay. I'll feel better and I will move on. And every day you wake up and you have a new day to figure it out. Some days you are not going to win the mental battle. That is a fact. You will lose, and that's okay. It's okay to lose. It's all right. And when you wake up the next day fresh, and it happens to me often, where I'm like, man, I just didn't make my goal. I didn't do this. Shit happened, and I'll feel bad at the end of the night. I'm like, fuck, man, I don't know how I'm going to make this happen. And then I wake up the next day, and I think, new day. Go get it. Whatever it is, just get out there and get after it. And you know what? You might get a bunch of no's. You might not get any sales. You might not get any leads. You might just get nothing but rejection all day long. That's a mental game. When you can stare somebody in the face that says blatantly no to whatever it is that you need from them or want from them or trying to offer them, awesome. Thanks. Have a nice day. Move on to the next one. That's the mental game you need to win. If you can win that game, you will make it much further, much easier in life. And it's not easy. It's something that we are not taught ever as kids, as young adults, or as adults. This is, to me, maybe it's just the access to information via social media, the access to content that makes it different. But growing up, that shit did not exist. I can't think of one time where somebody was like, hey, you know what you need to work on? And talked anything about that. 0%. I cannot remember one time in my young adult life where that was it. The first time I met someone who was really positive, man, he was a Kirby salesman. I sold Kirby vacuums, and that is a tough gig, boy. You got to get into a house with a vacuum, and you've got to fucking vacuum their house, and then you have to sell them a vacuum that's way too expensive. It's like they're going to finance this shit. Like, you got to have credit. You got to have a down payment. You're going to give them like $10 for their crappy Dyson vacuum. It's like an impossible job. And there was a guy in our office. He was so damn good at selling Kirby's. I dude made probably 200 grand a year selling Kirby vacuums. He was amazing at getting in a door. And I do not remember his name. I would not recognize him if I saw him on the street. But he was the most charismatic black dude I have ever freaking met in my life, personally. And that dude could sell you any damn thing. And you know what he did? He won that mental game. and he would help people in the office, just role play. And you realize how much you care about what other people think when you want to role play with somebody that you kind of know, and you don't, this is stupid, this is dumb. And no, it's not dumb, right? You are terrified to be vulnerable and make a mistake and be like, hey, Jeff, nice day in the neighborhood, buddy. I've got an awesome Kirby vacuum, but first, you want to win a big screen TV? Fill out your information. This is how we data mined back in the early 2000s. For the younger audience, we didn't send you a phishing email. We were like, we need your name and phone number.
When you're doing the trade shows, man, win this prize. You just got to fill out everything.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So how's this? Well, you're absolutely right when you're talking about the mental game and getting up and kind of doing the battle with yourself. And that falls in line with the Tony Robbins of the world. And I'm sure like a laundry list of other really good and successful people.
Yeah. Yeah.
What I teach is really for the broken. What I teach is for the people who are the hurting, have been through the trauma, have been through, they don't even know if they want to fucking live or not, let alone whether they want to go sell Kirby vacuums or make it in this world. There's levels, degrees. Now, yeah, you can use A.S.L.E.F.T to get you into that mental game daily. But what I'm trying to show your viewers is that the depths of A.S.L.E.F.T is like therapy for yourself. When it gets the darkest and you're not going to call anyone and you don't know whether you're going to make it through the night, just apply A.S.L.E.F.T. And it'll get you through.
I get that.
So
I'm just saying, how do you get to that point? Where do people end up where they start here and end up there? Because and to me, that's just continuously losing the mental game and not understanding how to deal with it, right? Constantly losing and feeling bad and putting it on themselves and taking all this pressure and just sticking it inside and losing that game, because it is all a mental game. Everything that A.S.L.E.F.T is also a mental game. It's just retraining your brain on how to deal with it.
Yeah, it's like this, man. If you want to whoop somebody's ass, you could go to Khabib, and he'll teach you a sweet rear naked chokehold. If you want to learn how to beat anxiety, depression, the emotions that create addiction or suicidal thoughts, you come to me. I'll teach you a sweet rear naked chokehold that could stave off anxiety. But if you don't practice it and you don't train your brain, then it's just nothing. It's waste.
Yeah.
So how did people get there? Most of the people I've met, they kind of got a bum start, even in childhood or their teens, and it bled through to the rest of their life, but they managed just to survive enough to be a little bit happy that they had some success and everything else. But the one thing I've learned about our emotions, conscious or subconscious, they will always have their due, whether in a mood or physical.
Yeah.
So that's the important of A.S.L.E.F.T. When you learn how to clean out your subconscious and you know how to start regulating on a conscious level, if you have no emotional trauma or the trauma is healed, they say, what is the saying? Retelling the story without the emotional charge is wisdom. A.S.L.E.F.T gets rid of the emotional charge, teaches you how to do it.
Okay.
So for your viewers next week, what we're going to have is I'm going to put it all into play. So if any of your viewers got questions, they got stories, if they want, I don't really like preaching. I really don't like presenting, but at least we present it once. So that gives us the content they can go back on. And as they contact us, I can give it to them in real time. I like hearing a real story and applying it instead of just shooting darts at a dartboard, being I hope this resonates with everybody. So what I'm asking from your public is give us your trust that you're not going to waste your time telling us. Now, give me your darkness. Give me your sins. I want that, but I don't want your fucking political beliefs. I don't want you bitching up being I can't believe the left. I can't believe the right. I don't give a fuck, because that's just shit that means really nothing when it comes to this show. We want to help you heal. Right, Lauren?
Yeah, right. I'm trying to get my friend to come on. She's having a tough time. I'm telling her to reach out to you because she's having a real tough time right now with a trauma. Her son just broke his elbow over spring break, like fell off a bike, broke his elbow. He has to have surgery, and she's freaking out because both her parents died due to complications via surgery. And so her just being in the hospital is like,
So she's
it's
never healed
tough.
from that.
No,
And
she
that's
doesn't.
now
Right.
reinforcing and re-triggering.
Yeah. So now
Okay.
she's like, I don't know how I'm even going to be in the hospital. He's got to have surgery next week. And I said, man, you know, that's, you reach out and talk to him. She says, I need to talk to somebody. I said, okay, well, I'm going to try to put you in touch with him and see if he can help you start working through that. And her mom died this past year. So it was pretty recent. And it was from, I think she said it was from over anesthesia, actually.
Over what?
Over anesthesia.
Okay.
So she was put to sleep and they were not able to wake her up. And her father died from unrelated complications from surgery, but they're older. You know, her son's young. It's just elbow surgery. It's not that big a deal. But for her, she's literally like,
she's got the link.
Know.
All the emotional trauma is linked to
Right.
surgery, among other things.
Yeah, and she's like, I don't know how I'm even going to go in the hospital and then have to deal with this. She's like, I'm freaking out. And I said, it's going to be okay. And, you know, like, I get it. You had some finite experiences that are bad, but we have to deal with that.
If she's willing to come on the podcast, even tomorrow or whenever, she's your friend. So
Yeah.
I'm sure I'm willing to turn on the camera if you're willing to turn on the camera for her.
Okay.
And yeah, let's do it. But if not, then I'm $60 Canadian, which is like $6 for you guys.
$6
an hour.
We're only paying people in rubles.
That's right.
You know,
that's
it.
The currency of the future.
I have like 60 billion rubles. They're worthless now.
I'll take a Bitcoin.
No. Did you
Just
listen
one.
to that? Did you listen to that
Just
podcast?
one.
Lex Friedman, dude, you gotta listen to that guy. Holy balls, dude! Because I found it a little interesting because I listened to some clips of that podcast and then I started listening to the whole thing. And you know, honestly, for what you talk about and how he was raised and the trauma he went through as a child, how that led him down the path he went on is a direct arrow. It's like they fired that dude out of a cannon into freaking straight up prison as a kid, you know? Yeah, they were like, hey, coming in hot. And they launched that dude straight into the
straight off mama's boob. Dude,
jail. Yeah, it's wild. Because the first clip I saw was him, how he escaped from prison. And I was like, what? Cyber criminal escaped from like federal custody, and he was on the run for months and stole all this money. And dude, but like he's on the potty. He's not in prison. Like, how are you here? What is happening? He had 35 fucking felonies, man. How are you not in prison? I'm so confused. But is a crazy podcast. Cyber crimes. You talk about Bitcoin and the Silk Road, and he was like a fraud guy. He did like computer fraud or something. Which apparently, for anyone listening out there who's doing computer fraud, if you get arrested and go to prison, according to this guy, do not tell them that, because apparently in prison, computer fraud means child pornography in prison. So.
Oh shit.
Yeah, he said once he got in there, he realized very quickly that you are not a cyber criminal. You are not computer fraud. You didn't steal you're not credit card fraud. Nope. That all leads to only one conclusion in the federal penitentiary, and that is child pornography. So he had a rough go of it in prison for a little while. But it's a wild podcast. You gotta listen to it. It's very, very exciting. Hilarious. Some parts of it were just fun, downright funny, but it was wild. But yeah, I was listening to it. I was like, man, just thinking about how kids, you know, what they go through, not knowing how to deal with it, how they're raised, and where they end up without having anyone to tell them or help them get through trauma. Because this dude went through some childhood freaking trauma, A+ trauma, you know. And where did he end up? Well, aside from Lex Friedman's podcast, man, that dude was on a run, and he was smart. It's not like he was dumb. He wasn't like a criminal who was just stupid and just did dumb stuff. Like, he was a smart guy, and he just went down a very dark road, wild. So, I would like to help some people out. I would like to talk to someone who's also been in prison and gotten out and is having a hard time, because rehabilitating back into the society. That's got to be tough. Find someone that does that. Apparently on TikTok, you can talk to people in prison directly. They have iPads and shit. So interesting. So what strange time to be alive, dude? It's a strange time to be alive. That's all I know.
Buddy, all I know is I'm 46 years old and now we have 62 or 63 genders.
There's a lot of genders.
It's crazy times, man.
Yeah, there's a lot of things happening, man. It's crazy. There's men, women, female sports, females losing at men's sports.
Crazy times, man. Crazy times.
Yeah.
And I know I'll never get to be old enough to sit back and look back at this time and been like, or get the reaction. Because who knows? I could be just like an old Zoomer, man, pushing boomer.
Sure.
Just being like, but everyone has, hey, listen, everyone has the respect. The reason I do what I do is because deep down, no matter what, there's only one race, and it's the human race. And every human being at its core just wants to be accepted and loved.
Yeah.
Now, that's most everybody. You can there's no absolutes in this life, but that's the most. And it's like, I know how to get there. And so that's kind of like, it's like Mark Twain said, the two most important days in your life is the day you're born and the day you realize why. And me helping people is why I was born. Trust me, I would have loved to have been doing other stuff than working out people's drama. But yet here we are.
Yet here we go. Yeah. Who knows? I know that you can change your path no matter what. But if you're on a shit path, you can just make a change. It won't be easy at all, but you can do it.
No. Sometimes sometimes people can critically think it and just start it. Some people just need to work through the feelings, get rid of the darkness. Then, because again, the body, when you heal your trauma, the body goes back to its natural stasis, which is just peace, love, and joy, gratitude. Like that's our natural state. If the ego's not in play, we're not worried about our past or the future, whatever, this and that, and we're just here now, that's the natural state. That's the benefit of healing your trauma. That's the benefit of doing the work. It sucks. Like people are like, what do you think of A.S.L.E.F.T? I'm like, the journey sucks, but it's totally worth it because you will go into your darkness. You will go into the shit you've been running from most of your life. And you're just going to feel it all by yourself. And also, sure, if you got friends or family to help you unpack it, that's great. But I didn't have that. So what I teach, all you need is one person, you. That's it.
Yeah.
So,
all right. Well, this was fun.
Thanks for the time.
We'll do another one. And what we'll do for the next one is we'll just plan out what the topic's going to be and we'll promote just that topic.
Well, for sure. But I just got to make, like, I'm willing to do 2 shows, but we still need one to really teach A.S.L.E.F.T. so your viewers can have something to go back on. I've got a few modalities, like at least to point them down the roads if you're dealing with this, or this, or this. And then we can also do another show, or after that, we're good for, signups, call-ins, whatever.
All right. We'll make that happen. We'll make that happen.
Perfect. Well, thanks for your time, buddy.
Of course, as always. And if you're watching the show, like and subscribe to the channel. Leave us comments. You can always email me as well, tmfapparelusa@gmail.com. Questions, comments, suggestions. If you want Jeff's address, we can send you that. All the things. And until then, we will be back next week and maybe during the week. We'll see. Stay tuned. If you click the little notification bell, you will know when we are going live, and I will put a post up prior to that. You can go ahead and book it. Until next time, you guys.